Hey everyone, and welcome back to Couch for It. I am Drew Tillman, your American host, I guess. I'm gonna
I
change it
guess
every time.
that makes me Valonda your not American host or English
Exactly,
host.
your
The
English.
English one.
Yes, the one on the English side of the couch.
Yes, the one on the correct side of the couch. That would be
Excuse
me.
you.
From this perspective, where I'm on the right side of the couch.
Okay, see that would be fair. Now, if you were the American host and I were the English host, we would be all messed up.
Yeah, this would be all kinds of crazy. It would be very. If we swapped sleeves, so to speak, things would be very weird.
It would be very weird, like super weird.
Yep, yep. Bring it back to what we're here for.
Yep, because I was about to say we are going to be talking about the last episode of season 1 of Altered Carbon. That is episode 10.
Yes,
What are
we've
your
done
first?
this crazy thing for about 20 odd weeks now, my man.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, 20. It had
strange.
to be 23. No, wait,
Oh
24.
wait.
Because we did 13 episodes of Lost in Space, a movie, and this.
Oh wait, there were 13 episodes of Lost in Space?
I'm pretty sure there are 13.
Wow, no wonder I felt so miserable.
There may have been 12. There were more than 10, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that's we'll go with that. I tried to blanch that from my memory. So yeah, it was the finale. And oh my god. Drew, what were your technically second impressions?
My second impressions.
Yeah, technically.
Second impressions were, oh, this is a really good episode. Oh no, why does it have to end? I don't want it to stop. And then it ended.
Oh.
How about you?
It was a no, no, and then it was like, oh, this is good. That basically how I had the initial like, oh no, and then it was like, yeah, this is good. I'm sad it's done.
Yep.
Like, god damn it.
Before we actually get further into it, I want to go on and talk about what I was saying to you a moment ago, which is
Mhm.
I think they did such a good job of setting this up, like that last episode and everything they like put into place over the last of the other 8 episodes, really set this last one up so that the main story wraps up very smoothly. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel drawn out. There's not. It's just like go 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 go, and then it finishes.
Yeah, they did the right amount of prep work so that this didn't feel like an elongated like, oh grab we're now at the end, we've done the main plot point which happens in like the first 5 minutes and then we're gonna fill 50 minutes of episode. No, it didn't feel like it was paced perfectly so
Mhm.
that this just everything drops and wraps up and finishes. So not only do we get like the conclusion to a story, we find the epilogue of the story too. And it's just a really nice, smooth episode. I say smooth, it was still like whoa up and down all over the place. Like oh my god, my heart is so sad. It's a really good episode and it ties everything up so well. It's paced so amazingly, and the previous episode just set this one up perfectly.
I agree. It was exactly what I wanted to see in the last episode of really any show. Just
Yeah.
like wrap up your story, give me the epilogue. Cool. Let's close out on a I don't not necessarily a positive note, but let's close out on a note.
Yeah, if this was the end of a series, like this is like the finale episode, they freaking nailed it because series like generally ongoing series, like the end of each like one series is like the end of like a story arc or something. But they never seem to do the final episode well. If this was the final episode and they never did a series 2, this would be perfect. It's just such a good episode. I
It's
love it.
amazing.
Yeah.
But let's jump actually into the episode now.
Yeah,
And I think as is the usual thing, I took notes. You did not.
that is correct.
So let me start off by saying the opening shot. Fuck everybody. It's Ortega climbing a set of stairs holding groceries. She gets to the door. An apple falls out of her grocery bag and into a
Of
puddle of
course.
blood. To which she freaks out because, hey, guess what?
It's an apple in a puddle of blood.
It's an apple in a puddle of
And then
blood.
she does the right thing of like, well, I'm going to see where this blood comes from. She opens her front room door, her apartment door, and there lies her cousin. I think it's her cousin, right?
It's either a cousin or uncle. It's.
To be fair, Sleeves is a family member.
Yeah.
So she sees this family member like laying on the floor against this the kind of the partition wall there, and she like grabs him and she's really sad and it plays it really well. She puts her hand to the back of his neck to check to see if he's in real death, and he has, and we're just like, oh no, she looks really sad, and then we hear another gunshot go off and we're like, oh wait, is this a because I'm an idiot, I thought this might have been a flashback. But of course, it goes on to explain that it's not, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I feel like an
Yeah.
idiot now.
Because she reaches her for her gun, and her gun's gone because
Shopping.
she's been shopping, whatever.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
she picks up a candlestick and creeps to the other room where she heard the gunshot, and she finds her dead nephews in the pool of blood, and then the ghost walker. Oh no, her
She
mom.
hears her mother.
Yeah,
Her mother calls out for her, and she's looking around trying to find her, and she can't see her. And then she turns around, and there's her mom. She like falling on the ground. She's bleeding to death, and she looks not good. And she's like, "Mom, what happened? What happened? What happened?" And the mom just like whispers something out in Spanish. It ends up being, "He's behind you." She turns around, and there's the ghost walker.
there he is, and he's clearly fucking with her because she goes to attack him, and he disappears.
Yeah, and then
And
I'm like, "Oh wait, yeah, she was in VR."
Yep, she's in VR. And he keeps like saying stupid shit, appearing behind her, and then she swings at him.
Yep. And then he pins her up against the wall, and then he basically resets. Basically, the whole premise being he keeps making her relive what he did to her family.
Keeps erasing it and doing it again and again and again. And there's I do like the little montage here because it's her pinned against the wall. She realizes it's a construct and says so, asks how long she's been there, and then as he says, "Oh, not enough times," like then it cuts back and you see little bits of the same thing happening over and over and over again.
Yeah, it plays it in like almost like fast forward, but without fast forwarding the action. It just takes out the chunks of like inverted commas dead air, suspense, air,
Yep.
etc. Because the suspense has already been done,
Exactly.
and it just keeps jumping through these, and you're just like, oh no, she's being screwed with. And then one of these times when it's supposed to reset, it doesn't. All of the bits of the construct get faded away. They kind of like in pieces, like oh, I've just added this small items layer, I've added the big items layer, I'm taking away the texture pack, I'm taking away the wool pack. It's like each of these things are being unloaded like one after another, and she's just left in what I can just describe as like a black dark version of the hollow suite in Star Trek. Like it's just black nothingness, and on the ground there's this kind of this weird like grid pattern, and she's just there alone, and she realizes that she's been left on in virtual reality with nothing there.
Yep. Which is fucked up, and she freaks out about it, which is...
As you would.
Yeah, it's very appropriate.
Yeah.
But it cuts from there to to where we last left Kovac and Elliot, which is in Ray's room. Elliot's on the ground bleeding. Kovac is now surrounded by a bunch of guards with shocky batons. That's all I can call them.
I think they're actually called stun batons, but yeah, sure.
No, they're not stun batons, as we find out here in a moment.
That's true.
But Kovac beats the fuck out of all these guards. He's fighting them, and then Ray pulls a gun and puts it to Elliot's stack, and she's like, "You better stop because exact line." Those batons can cause mental damage after a second, and real death a couple seconds later.
Yeah. So he's like, "Do you know what? No, I'm gonna stop."
Good on him, right? Like,
yeah. Well played. He stops beating the crap out of these guys. Oh, oh my gosh. The thing I liked about that particular scene is that she mentions she has the only gun.
Yeah, there's only one gun on the entire ship, and it's hers.
Yeah, so they've got a bolt gun and a gun,
Yep.
right?
A bolt gun and a gun, yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry, but the bolt gun still counts as a gun, in my opinion.
It might be used to kill cattle, but it will kill you too.
Exactly. Like, it's a high projectile weapon. It's still lethal.
Yeah, but it's not a gun.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just because it's got a gun in the name doesn't mean it's... No, it's still gonna kill a person if you put it to the back of their stack. It's still like a projectile-based weapon. So that's just like, oh, really? No, this is not the case. Because they have a little fight. Is it still this scene where they have that little fight and he gets it from her?
Not quite, because this scene, the last thing that happens is she tells him the batons can kill you, so don't move. The Ghost Walker is like, "What do you want done?" And she tells him to trace the callback. She finds out the Rollins virus is not fake, because she goes and checks her like backups.
It's like fatal error.
And she's like, "Oh, motherfucker." She's like, "Damn Ava Elliott." And then she says, "Track the call back, and if it came from that hotel, I want that AI reduced to nanodust." First of all, what the fuck is nanodust?
That's just dust, surely.
I feel like just dust is a good enough, like, nano doesn't mean electronic. Nano is like a
Just means really
size.
freaking small. Dust is pretty small.
It's already kind of small.
It's just I think it's just there to accentuate how small she wants this AI reduced to rubble.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's gonna find a way. Like, no, Poe's not gonna put up with this shit.
Unfortunately, because it cuts from that scene to the hotel where Ava's pacing, Mickey's trying to get something to work, and he's like, "Why aren't you worried? I can't get a signal out." Poe's just standing around being Poe. And she's like, "Because I went past worried and straight to full-on panic."
Yeah. It was the calm manner in which she delivered this line just made me laugh so much. So she's there pacing, and like she reaffirms, yes, she's basically fragged this bitch. She's going down regardless. Like it went out, it happened. And then I believe at this point the Ghost Walker turns up.
Yeah. Also, again, this is movie timing perfectly, because she says, "Yeah, I burned that bitch to the ground." Right, literally, normal conversation speeds. The Ghost Walker comes spinning through the front door, and he's like, "And you should not have done that." Like, were you just waiting outside? Like,
were you waiting for the perfect villain opportunity, or was he just standing there for a while? Like he was standing in the spinner things and was just waiting there. Like
someone's gonna say something.
She's done it now, bitch. This is going down. And then he walks in. Like, was he just being polite, just to one side, waiting for her to say something he can go in and be an asshole about?
It's such like a tropey thing for like a villain to come in on a line, and it's like,
perfect line.
What do villains do? Do they just like, hold on, someone's gonna say something I can riff off of here in a minute? And why has no one played with that trope to the point of having a villain come in and say something and be like, "Oh, I thought you said." Never mind.
He comes in with a line that's completely inappropriate.
Yeah, it just says something like, and then everyone's like, "What?" He's like, "I thought you." It doesn't matter.
But of course, he went to like the 1940s school of villains turning up out of the blue and saying things. And he went to a proper place. He went to a proper schooling, okay, for being a villain.
Yeah, but he catches everyone by surprise. The humans make sense, but the AI, like, Poe disappears and comes back with a shotgun, because that's his, like, go-to thing.
That's his go-to weapon, yep.
You see the guns that are in the ceiling that we've seen several times start to pop out, and then they freeze, and they go back in, and the Ghost Walker's like, "Oh, do your systems not tell you that I entered? What's going on?"
Bam, 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 and he holds up the shittiest remote control known to man.
Yeah, he holds up a remote control and pushes a button, and the saddest moment of this entire episode.
Take a moment. So, there Poe is holding his shotgun like the true AI hero that he is, more human than anybody else. He stands forward with the gun, and the guy raises the remote control, and we begin to see this hole forming on the arm of Poe. And it's this kind of like blackish, bluish, kind of like futuristically, what would happen if you started to destroy a hologram? Well, apparently it would look like this rather than just killing the hologram. And it slowly begins to dissolve up his arm like he's covered in acid. Mm-hmm. And you have that moment where Poe goes, "Oh, I'm fucked," just in his face. And then we basically cut straight to Lizzie. He basically retreats from where he is. That moment of him dying and him possibly taking revenge right there and then. No, he does the one thing like a true hero. He gives himself up to not fight this thing. And he goes to find Lizzie to push her forwards to the next place.
This is true. I also want to point out that apparently what we've taken for a hologram this whole time, I hit my phone, so that's going to be a fun sound of the podcast. What we've taken for a hologram has to be made out of something, because Ava says, she's like, "Oh, electron destabilizer." And then as Poe dissolves, he leaves behind a pile of dust. Yeah. So this hologram has to be made of something.
Yeah, it was that point when like we begin to see more bits of his interior, and you realize like, wait a minute, is that like supposed to be some sort of really bad synth that just like projects like a hologram on the edge of it? Because if that's the case, that thing's been teleporting fucking all over the goddamn place.
I think it's got to be something like he is made out of like nanobots or something.
Yeah,
that
possibly.
Like can like basically disperse and then reform somewhere else.
Yeah, because otherwise this makes no sense, because he leaves remnants behind. Like, this makes no sense at all.
It really doesn't.
But it's such a sad scene.
Oh, no, it's so sad. This is, like, the saddest I felt watching this entire series is Poe dying. And I had forgotten how sad it was, because he's dying slowly, and he goes to save Lizzie,
Yeah.
and he's dying in VR and real life at the same time. And he's like, Lizzie, I have to get you out of here. Um, and she's like, oh, send me to head in the clouds. And he's like, that's a stupid plan.
It basically does. It's like, that's a dumb plan. I'm not going to do this. And she's like, no, you will. You have done. You're going to. Like, she has that kind of like weird, like, it's the future and you've already done it thing. And they have this nice little touching scene where she basically says there's retribution and destruction and death in the future. And he's like, plan on giving me which one's coming first? And he does. He sends it off to VR. And they have this nice little kind of like touching moment when she's like, you're probably more human than AI, my man. You're good now. Let me go do my thing.
Oh, yeah. She calls him, she says he's more human than most, and then he calls the Ghostwalker less than human.
Yeah, it's that's almost literal jump from there when she calls him human, and he goes like, we snap back to reality because it's been backwards and forwards a little bit between reality and virtual reality, just kind of like him being distracted by dealing with Lizzie, and then like Ghostwalker being an asshole and moving his controller up further, and he goes back, he's like, yeah, you are less than human, you're a degenerate or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
You're too disgusting or too degenerate to be human. And it's this beautiful little kind of like mirror of what's going on, of like, yeah, this is a person who inverted commas isn't real versus someone who is real, who's being a complete tool.
And I like the part that Poe's last words in the reel are, I'll see you in hell.
Yes, it's just like that's so beautiful. And then we go back to VR where he has his last death, and I believe he's saying a poem, and I'm pretty sure it is a Poe poem.
It really, if it's not a Poe poem, whoever wrote it really captured the Edgar Allan Poe spirit, because
it's so much like that. Like, it has that feel to it, and I wanted to go check it up, but I only actually just finished watching it, so I haven't had a chance to find out what it is yet.
Well, we'll find out. We'll let someone know at some point.
Yeah. So we'll let someone. I might put it in the description. I might remember to check it out. That'll be my note of like, Volly does this week. Volly actually goes to check something out. And he says this nice little poem as he's dying in the virtual world, and the rain is falling, and he's fizzing in and out of existence, like flashing and like phasing and stuff. And eventually, like in the real world, we see the last of him just basically, turn into dust.
Yep.
I do need to point out in this scene, his is not the only death, but it's the only death I cared about.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, his was the only death that because actually during this whole during this whole scene where Poe is dying and he's talking to Lizzie, Mickey, who is being held at gunpoint, goes for the gun, and the Ghostwalker shoots him through his stack and kills him. But I feel less for Mickey's death than I do for Poe.
Yeah, like Mickey's death was it had that element of like, obviously he's in the police force, and he's trying to do the right things. He's trying to disarm them, so he's trying to get the gun back and have an advantage. Which he's trying to be a hero. He's trying to be a good guy. But it very much felt like that. Oh shit, we have an extra character we don't actually have a story for, and there's no point wrapping he was just there to help facilitate the story, so let's just kill him here and now and give a reason for an Ava to be sad.
Yep.
So she's basically like there holding him, and basically now can't do anything because she's holding his corpse, who has been stacked. Like, he's toasted, he's done.
Yeah, he's so dead. And that sucks but at the end of that, as Poe is dead and his hand dissolves on the countertop and leaves a pile of dust, Ava is picked up and marched away, and we cut to Head in the Clouds.
Wait, hang on. Wait a minute, just 1 minute. So when we cut back to Poe's hand being like a pile of dust, it really looked like there was something in that pile of dust because it was quite high. To me, it looked like some sort of ribbon or braid or something just in the shape of the dust. I'm like, is that on top of something? And that comes back to something later on I want to bring up. It's just important I have to bring up now so I can remember to bring it up later.
It's a good question because I honestly also want to know if there was something there. Because it is rather high. I think the first time I watched it, I was like, did he die giving him the finger?
That was my first thought. Germany was like, are they just zooming back because we see him like we see the Ghostwalker and his companions march Ava out through the revolving doors, but we see it from behind the bar, so we see Poe's hand or disintegrated hand, and it's a pile of something, and there is just like this long shape in it, which I honestly thought maybe the middle finger. I'm so glad we had the same thought.
It looks like his hand is on the counter, like, haha, fuck you.
It's like he's clearly going to be reaching for something. He's doing something there, and in my heart, I don't want to believe he was just like holding onto the counter crying. Like, I think Poe's doing something, and I needed to bring up the fact that I saw something really high stacked there because I'm going to bring up my theory later on.
All right, because we're definitely going to talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it cuts from Poe's death to the head in the clouds, where a guard is walking through the synth storage area and finds a synth laying on the ground. And he's like, "Oh, no one's supposed to be in a synth body tonight. Who are you?" And then he thinks it's somebody from engineering, and is like,
somebody's girlfriend from engineering. Because like, why wouldn't you use the toys when your master's not there?
Yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna fuck you," but it's not somebody from engineering.
It's Lizzie.
It's Lizzie, who immediately changes the synth body to look like her own and snaps this dude's neck.
Yeah, it's like, nice. Okay, we have a badass psychopathic chick on the run here.
And as she...
I'm digging it.
I also like, because she walks out, finds a rack of clothing, looks through it, and then smiles, and that's where it cuts. So you don't see what her choice of clothing is yet.
So good.
Because instead it cuts back to the Raven Hotel, where Tanaka is standing over Mickey's dead body, and he's so sad. Because,
of course,
Ortega's family's dead. Now Mickey's dead. Like, all this shit's happening.
And Ortega's missing.
Yeah, and Ortega's missing. Like, this is a huge problem. And then the former lawyer for Bancroft runs in, like, shoves her way past the police, and is like, "I need to talk to him."
And he's like, "I'm not talking to you." And she's like, "You're still on the payroll." And he's like, "Yeah, duh." And she's like, "I'm trying to be a decent human being, but you have a decent human being in you. I know, I've seen it." And he's like, "Yeah, okay then."
It really does feel like she is trying to actually be legitimate and, like, trying to be very honest about, "Hey, I realize I fucked up. I fucked up real bad. Let me make it better."
Yeah, you do get the thing she's actually trying. It's because she has been dumped in the dirt with nothing. Because, Bancroft stripped her of everything last time we saw her. She has nothing now. Like, she's on, like, the lowest level rung. She could be a petty asshole about it, but she's not. She's trying to do the right thing. Yes, it's going to screw over Bancroft, and that's probably a leading motivation, but you don't really get that from this scene. You get that, I'm trying here. Like, we have seen it throughout the series of her not feeling good about the things the meths are doing. Like, she's not okay with some of the things she's seeing. She's not okay with the things they're doing, but she wants to live forever, basically. And who doesn't? I mean, that's a driving motivation for humanity, is to keep living.
Yeah.
So I get that. And now she's down in the dirt. It's like, you just need to ask me where Ortega is, and I will tell you. You just have to ask.
Yeah, she's like, "I know who has her, so just ask me where Ortega is."
Yeah. And I think it's pretty much the same. Like,
it doesn't say anything. I liked it too. Like, I like this episode's really good about having characters that you think are total shitbags seemingly trying to make amends for what they did.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, like, redemption arcs wrapping up at once, which I really like. But
yeah.
But that is the end of the scene, because you don't hear him ask. It just cuts from there to Ortega in that black room again. And then she wakes up to Kovac.
In the real.
And
he's taking the weird thing off of her head, so she's now back in real world.
And she hugs him, and then she sees all the shit that's been going on around her that she's been unaware of. She sees
the Ghost Walker, and she's like, you killed my family, you've been torturing me, fuck you, motherfucker.
I'm gonna kill you!
And she just goes for him, and it's that kind of cartoon moment, it really is, but it was kind of funny to me at the time. It's kind of like, I get that, that's fair enough. She goes for the Ghost Walk with, like, that blinker's, like, red eye approach to it, and we just see Ray just walk out and just, like, put her fist out to her face.
She's like, no.
No. It was just a cool little, like, we saw it coming because we could see her in the periphery. We just see her move, and we just see her take Ortega down, which is like, it's fair. She's not gonna let you go to the Ghost Walker.
She's not gonna let you fight the Ghost Walker.
No,
she's got to keep control of this situation.
Yeah. So control is established when Ortega, Ava, who's now been brought back, and Elliot are basically now down on their knees with a bunch of her mooks standing around them with the shock batons. And this is where she becomes the shittiest sister in the world. She gives her brother what she claims to be a loaded weapon with a single bullet in it, because hers is clearly the only gun on the ship, and says he has to kill one of them.
He has
because it will make him stronger.
Yeah, because this is a whole mess of a scene, and I like it because Ray is clearly absolute fucking crazy pants.
Yeah. She has such conviction in what she's saying of like, these people are making you weak. You need to take one of them out, and you and me, we can just be best friends forever. We can BFFs. We can like boink in other bodies. Like we can just be together.
Yeah.
And he's like, you are off your fucking rocker. And she's like, no, these people make you weak, and you only get stronger. Like transformation is painful. It's sad and terrible. You become stronger for it. And he basically has that "you're fucking crazy" moment on his face, and we see.
Yeah, Kovacs is like, this isn't about them, it's about us, so just let them go, and I will stay here. And Ray's not having that. She's like, no, you have to kill one of them. Because, again, she's fucking insane. And it cuts from there for a second to Lizzie walking through Head in the Clouds in a leather fucking cat suit covered in chains. That's the attire she chose.
So good. What I liked about this scene is that we start with that very traditional low to the ground following someone's footsteps, and then it basically pans upwards as we're walking forward, and then we just see like her in this suit. What I liked quite a lot about this scene is the music. My god, the music was spot on for this. It was that badass chick not having any more of this shit music. Like, I don't know what it was, I don't know what the words were, but it just had that feel about it. I'm like, she's clearly supposed to be shown as being a badass right now. And she's walking around looking like a badass. I need to see her be a badass, and then subsequently
now
is a badass.
Also, I'm aware they're in a giant brothel. They're not going to have super practical clothing, but it's still just kind of a weird option to choose from. But
yeah,
whatever.
That's definitely S&M package.
Right, it really is.
Work to get through.
But it cuts from her walking back to Ray, who says the thing about real power is cutting away things that make you weak.
Yeah.
And Kovacs pulls the ultimate "hey, fuck you" move, which is he puts the gun to his own stack and says, "Let them go, or you will lose everything, because I will kill myself right now."
And she's like, "You would risk your life for these people," and basically he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Ortega's freaking out, being restrained. Everyone's like, "What the
Riker.
fuck?"
It's Riker's sleeve.
It's Riker's sleeve, and it's Kovacs, and she clearly loves Kovacs. It's a whole mess for her. Real bad.
Poor girl.
But he pulls the trigger and the gun spins up because it's clearly not just a gun. It's some sort of like plasma weapon or something.
Or a rail gun or something. Dumb.
You hear this like whirring noise, and then it just goes and like cuts out.
It might as well have that Windows error message, mirror tone, like dong.
Right? Because it's clearly not loaded. I don't know who thought this is what Kovacs. You're smarter than that.
And she's like, "I'm not going to give you a loaded gun." I was like, good, because I thought you'd be dumb if you did.
Like, that's the stupidest plan you could have.
Because you could just turn and shoot her. Like,
right?
Why?
So, Kovacs is like, "Okay, I'll stay, but let all my friends go." And then Ray finally agrees to it.
Because he was willing to risk his life.
Exactly. And then she says the craziest line a human can say.
Oh, God, yeah.
"I'm saving them for you because you're going to kill them all.
And then you won't even care when you do." I'm like, he is. You are. I love the fact she was so convicted. There was so much conviction of like, this is going to happen. She was so convinced that this is going to be a thing. Like, you will kill all your friends eventually because they're not your friends. You're not going to care about them. You're going to stay here with me. We're going to get strong, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to be together forever and ever and ever. And like the three of them get frog marched out to go live life in their cells. What I liked about this scene, it was very subtle in the background. When the three of them realized they were going to live, Ava and Elliot hold hands. They just reach out and touch each other. I'm like, oh, that's adorable.
They're so happy, they hold hands, and it's so cute. And the Elliots are so cute.
They are. I was joking. Oh, that's so cute. And then they get frog marched out.
Yep. And then it cuts back to Lizzie, who steps out of an elevator or something, sees a trail of blood, and then follows it to a room where a guy is standing, Pooh Bear, as I'm going to call it, where he's got a shirt on but no pants.
This was hilarious to me because it was like you come across this scene and like you see a couple of dead hookers. You see a dead dude, a dead chick, and they're against the wall. They're covered in blood, covered in holes, and there's a knife in the dude's throat. And we see this guy just like wearing this white shirt and a bow tie or some bullshit like that, and he's like cleaning a bunch of knives or something. And like, okay, you can see he's naked from the bottom half down. You just see his butt and his thigh. I'm like, okay, that's fine, that's cool. Yeah. She takes the knife out of the dead hooker's throat, And she basically turns to the guy, and the guy turns around, and he's like, I didn't order the S&M package, but I guess I'm going to take it. And we just get full dick. Surprise!
Just, here we go. Just full dick.
That's like, okay. It's like, all right, that makes sense. Because quite often, like when you see these sex scenes or whatever it is, like they conveniently have pants on. He didn't conveniently had pants on. He conveniently just had a bow tie and a shirt on.
Which also, real weird choice to make for being an whatever. You do you, man. Walk around all Pooh Beared if you want.
He clearly did Pooh Bear. I'm gonna have to bring that as a thing in my head. It's just
It's a thing. It's Pooh Bear.
bottom half naked Pooh Bear. Okay, so he went full Pooh Bear on this moment.
You can also
everything.
Donald Duck if you want to go there as well.
Okay, I think Pooh Bear is just more funny.
Pooh Bear's funnier. No, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But she kills him because fuck that dude.
Handsome.
He's a piece of shit. And then it cuts.
It's great.
Yeah, it's great. She's like, all right, you're dead. Fuck you. And it cuts away from Lizzie again, back to Ray and Kovac, where Ray, she also again, evil villain trope thing of she's like monologuing at Kovac, and then she's like, I'm getting tired, and her goons rush Kovac and like shove him to like to his knees, and it's like, did you rehearse this?
They shove him into a chair. Like, she doesn't give them any indication that this is what she wants. They just grab him and shove him into this chair while she goes all like full like evil villain monologue thing where she's like swaying to and fro, walking over to her like hidden cache of weapons.
Oh yeah.
She opens the not fridge thing. She pulls out a weapon, and she's like, I'm gonna remove that thing from your eye because I love you.
It's like, do you rehearse these things? There's no command, no note. She's just like, I'm bored.
It's not even like because they have their future technology things and have all these Onis. It's not even like we saw one of her eyes light up. So it's like sending a group message to like her Goonies without having to say anything out loud. Like, I'm just gonna ping them a message. Boink. You know, there's none of that. Like, you've just received a message from Skype. There's none of that. Like any interaction. They just do the thing.
They just do it. And she tells him she's gonna get rid of the wire cam, and she's going to get rid of that sleeve. So he's like, no. And they have this argument about, like, she's like, oh, you need to do it. And he's like, oh, like, you need to kill the Ortega kids?
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm a meth. I can just take whatever I want. And they have that argument about, like, you can't kill kids. That's fucked up. Like, that's a line.
There's a line you shouldn't cross, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
And then they have a conversation about her necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Because her necklace comes from their mom, who basically died at the hands of their father. I think that's what I vaguely remember.
Yes.
And it goes on to explain that she doesn't wear it because she misses her mom. She wears it because she hates her mom. How weak she was, and she was so weak she deserved to die. And I was just like, you say that to the person who killed her killer, who was also his father. Like, you have to understand how fucked that was. Like, you just turned around and said everything he did was pointless. Like, natural selection, you shouldn't have killed him. Like, whoa, yeah, I think stab her. Go for it.
yeah. But she says that, and it cuts away to Lizzie walking through the halls, hands covered in blood, big ass knife. And she comes across the guards and the Ghost Walker as they are marching her parents and Ortega away. And they're like yelling at Elliot because he's not walking fast enough. They're like, you stabbed me in the leg, you assholes.
And Ava's like, he's fucking bleeding, dude.
And the Ghost Walker then says some goddamn bullshit because he's like, all pain is instructional. It tells you not to do something. You should listen next time. And then shoves Elliot, like knocks him over. And as he's laying there, he sees Lizzie.
So they fall down and Elliot looks up and he sees Lizzie, and so does Ava. And like Lizzie they just share a look, and then Elliot's just like nods his head at her, and then everything goes to fucking war. It's so good.
They murder a bunch of random guards. Like, real fast. Like, Lizzie comes up and stabs a guy in the back of the head. And then, you know, Ava and Ortega, like, get into a fight. And Elliot gets into a fight. Like, they're all fighting. And it's just, like, real rapid.
Just, like, take out all these guards between the four of them. And, like, Lizzie's, like, fighting these two. And the Ghost Walker's like, do you know what? I'm peacing out.
He just runs away.
Like, a couple of steps back and then just runs. Like, that is actually very smart. That's not him trying to prove his worth. That's him going, I'm going to fight you on my own terms, bitch. And basically just run. It's like, oh, God.
But before he runs away, Elliot tells Ortega to go help Kovac. So she runs off. And then after this fight happens, it cuts back to Ray about to stab Kovacs in the eye to get the wire cam out. When all of a sudden she leans back and a sword flies past her head. Because who's there? It's Ortega. Yay! And there's another murder scene. I actually think they cut these two fights together really
they do,
well.
They cut between like the things that are going on here. So yeah, Ortega basically throws a thing at her, and all hell breaks loose. There are guards flying left, right, and center. There are weapons being drawn all over the goddamn place. And it's freaking chaos, and it's beautifully. Again, I have problems with a lot of fight scenes where I can't follow the action because everything's just going too fast. I can't. This isn't here. This is beautifully choreographed. It's not too fast. It's not like over the top extreme. This is how a fight would look if you are fighting like this with basic humans. And yeah, they're a bit more power, but you can still follow what's going on. You see punches being thrown. You can tell it's this person. You can tell it's that person. And props to wardrobe because the main characters look very different from the mooks. So the mooks could be anyone. It doesn't really matter. Like, they are the mook section, and then we have like the hero section. But just at a glance at like the clothing, you can just tell who they are. So like major props there to styling and everything going on.
It's very good. And it cuts in the middle of that fight scene. It cuts back to Lizzie and her parents, and she's like breaking glass, and she tells them, "I'm gonna kill Head in the clouds." And then Ava explains her plan because Ava apparently just has this connection with her daughter, which is all the main systems run through this room. If you flip these 3 switches at one time, it just shuts everything down.
Well, yeah, because Ava is like the hacker's hacker. Like she knows I think she already knows what the layout of this place is because she's had all the plans. And she
did look at all the schematics. That's true.
Yeah, and of course Elliot's just like, oh, I'm the dummy here. He's the audience in this situation. So really Ava goes to explain what's going on, and then there's like the three of them like get together. They stand by their reset buttons, and then Elliot's like, yeah, the Elliots are going to take this thing down, and the three of them pull the thing. And it's like, whoop, whoop, whoop,
right before they do, Ray and Ortega are fighting, and Ray kicks Ortega back through the door to her apartment. Then it cuts to them pulling the thing, and it's like, oh, it does that like power down noise, and this big fucking bulkhead slams shut and separates Ortega from Ray and Kovac. Yeah, and a random mook who dies in the next like millisecond. Yeah, he's like super dead.
So we have the siblings in one room who are conveniently and perfectly separated from everybody else. So they can do all their fighting on all of their like emotional stuff without being interrupted by everyone else who's clearly going to be trying to get to them. So it's now just down to those two. The base element of like cutting it down is between brother and sister. This is what's happening.
They do such a good job because they actually cut down like all the fights. They cut down Ortega and Kovac and Ray, they cut them out, and it's just them. It's them in a room full of weapons with one gun. As Ortega's standing there trying to get back in, the Ghostwalker shows up. So it's her and the Ghostwalker fighting. And it's those are really the only two like things. It cuts back to Lizzie and Elliot and them, but the two main fights here at the end are Ortega fighting the Ghostwalker and Kovac fighting his sister.
Yeah. All right, so let's do Ortega because this is like the thing we can just take to one side. Yeah. Ortega and the Ghostwalker basically go head to head. They have this big fight scene. We can tell that she's using her arm to the best ability because she's, robot arm. She's doing the best it can, but he's obviously a really good and skilled fighter. And there's a point where basically he has her in a headlock. And he whispers something like just really horrible to her, which basically on the lines of like, when your mother was dying, she was praying to God. And it's like, oh, that's harsh. And then like you basically see her break free. I think she grabs his ankle with her robot hand, whatever the fuck it is, and she basically just breaks his ankle with her robot arm, and he's like, ow, and lets go of her. I'm like, yeah, I would too.
Yeah, because he's like, where's your God now? And she's like, he's right here, and grabs his ankle and just crushes it. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like, that's brutal. It's because you see, like, literally, like, above the break, you see, like, one part of the leg go one way. It's like, that's so gross. I love it.
And he immediately runs away because, in the end, like all religious nutbags, he's a coward. And starts to run down the hall, and she runs back to get his stupid little starfish claw thing. Yeah. And you're like, oh no, the Ghostwalker's definitely going to get away. But no, because he runs into the fucking cops.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not going to put the cops.
I have to say, from this point on, we basically occasionally see snapshots of all like the brothel workers and all the people visiting the brothel basically escaping in various states of undress. So we have the cops turn up with some like undressed people. It's just the funniest thing to me.
Like,
So yeah, the Tanaka basically knocks this guy, stops this guy, and he falls to the ground and like goes to shoot him. And of course, Ortega's like, no,
he's mine.
which is fair because he murdered her fucking family.
Oh yeah, and the Ghostwalker's like, "What are you doing? You're on the payroll." And
And
so
he's like, not today.
exactly. Uh,
Unfortunately, I don't know if you've seen it. Was it AWS? AWS. The little cartoon AWSFD, something like that. The little cartoon which has like all these like really random little like 3-second sketches or something. And one of them is a potato which constantly gets squashed. And at one point he just puts on shades and holds out a gun. It's like, not today. And it was exactly the same way. And that just one image just ruined this whole scene.
oh no!
I know, it was sad.
Tanaka's
Like,
not a potato.
it's like, not today. And it was just beautiful. It was just like one of those moments that if I hadn't seen the sketch thing, I wouldn't have found this so funny, but I did. Anyway,
But
moving
to
on.
be serious, Ortega knocks the Ghostwalker to the ground, and he, again, is begging for his life. Oh no, don't kill me, don't kill me. And Ortega says, my mom prayed for God, and he put you in front of me. And then she kills him.
Yep, she uses crazy starfish thing, shoves it in the back of his neck, and removes his stack with it.
Yep. And he is dead.
He is toasted. And that's the end of the Ghost Walker. Thank fuck for that tropey death.
Yep.
We're all happy.
Oh, we're so happy. I mean, that's pretty much the end of the Ortega fight too.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So shall we jump back to Kovac and Ray? And
Let's do it.
all right. So Kovac and Ray are locked up. Ray loads her gun, shoots at Kovac, who dodges it, and of course, her first shot misses him, blows a window out, and again,
Of course.
they're floating above the ocean or the city or whatever. But if you're in a high place, you always have to break a window out, so you get like that wind effect, and you can get the really dramatic like hair and stuff during your fight scene.
Oh, yeah, I
And
have
things
to
can
say
fly
something
out.
here, actually. Something I noticed. Actually, I noticed it during the scene, but it actually happened way before. When they when the Elliots power down the station, did you notice what color all of the rooms went?
I did not.
They went VHF blue.
Oh, interesting.
And all of like everything went DHF blue, and then on top of that, whenever there were random flashing like alert lights, they were the same red that they used in the opening scene, like on the main body of the thing. So I was just like, that's really cool.
Also, now that you say it, Head in the Clouds is kind of shaped like a stack.
It is exact. That was the other thing that has like each of these little pods, each of these little like in the stack, because they've got like little kind of looks like
Like a honeycomb.
like a honeycomb, but not as like perfectly
Yeah.
shaped. Just odd little globules in there, and that's how Head in the Clouds is. That's what it looks like. And it even has that little cutout dint in it.
Yeah, you're right.
At one point, and I was just like, at that moment, went, "Oh, that's really clever. Oh, that is so clever. That's amazing."
Oh, that actually is really good. Oh,
Yeah.
it gives a whole new. Oh.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, well, I
That
can't think
was-
about that forever. She shoots at him, blows a window out. He grabs a weapon off the wall because, again, evil villains always have weapons on the wall. Throws it at her, knocks the gun out of her hand, and it slides through the window.
Yeah.
But not
So they're
out of the window.
just close enough that they could grab it if they need to,
Exactly.
conveniently. It plot point stops. It hits the plot point more.
Yeah.
And they're having this really cool fight where basically they just grab weapons. Like they just reach out and grab a weapon. It's like everything is perfectly placed for this fight.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much chaos going on. They grab weapons, they shoot each other, they hit each other, and then they grab like the katana-y type swords. And it's like, oh, okay, these are their final weapons. These are like they're top level weapons because
Yep. And Kovac
You always have
says, "No more dead children." And Ray asks, "Who's gonna stop me?" And then we get a katana fight.
of course we do.
And it's a good one too. Like
It is. It's really cool. I mean, they have this very cool, very like brutal looking fight where they slash each other and hit each other, and you're not actually sure which one is winning, like through the entire thing, because like, oh, he's getting the upper hand, or oh no, she's getting like knocked down, or he's getting knocked down so he can come back triumphant again. No, it's nothing like that the whole time. Like they are just really good swordsmen, and they do get blows on each other when they're able to, and it's so beautiful. It shows them as being really well matched, and how matched they are is how they end this fight. Which is, we see her shove a sword through his chest, like up in that shoulder clavicle area where it's, away from the heart and away from the lungs, and I was going to die, yada yada. It's not a mortal wound. It's pretty shitty, and you're probably going to bleed out from it. But it's you see that, and then as the camera pans around a little bit, you see that he stabs her in the gut. Like, this had to have happened all at the same time. And there's this really slow shot where they're looking at each other like, oh no, the pain. And then, oh no, I stabbed my sibling. And then, oh no, my sibling stabbed me. They have this really long protective moment where they are looking at each other and they're sad and angry. And we see all these things over both their faces. And it's beautiful. And then they basically lean back and take the swords out of each other.
Yep, they whip the swords out of each other. And like it looks like they're about to fight again, and then they're just like, oh no, fall to their knees.
Yeah, this
exhausted.
is not happening.
And then Ray lunges for the gun,
of course,
and points it at Kovac. And about this time, Ortega and Tanaka get back to the door with the big bulkhead, and then. Oh, before she jumps with the gun, Kovac is like, it doesn't matter what happens. We can stay here. You're still going to jail. And that's when she goes for the gun, because she's like, no, I'm not going to jail. Like, that's just not happening.
Not going to jail. I'm not going on ice. Fuck this.
Yeah. And so Ortega and Tanaka are outside yelling, and then Ray, with the gun at Kovac, tells him, if you help me, we can get to the escape pods, and we can go find Kel. Because I backed her up before she died, and I have her DHF hidden somewhere, but you'll never find it without me. And poor Kovac is having a fucking mental breakdown because he's seeing, fake Kel there.
Yeah, his hallucination of Kel basically turns up next to it and spouts like the nonsensical, really deep, meaningful phrases.
Like, oh, you knew all along. That's why you saw me.
You've known where this is headed, yada yada yada. So we see all this like really deep, like her being, and he basically just looks at the pair of them like, I don't know what, huh?
Yeah. But eventually he says, I can't let you go. And Ray goes to shoot him, but he turns and gets it in the shoulder, but he takes the gun from her and jams it against her stack, and they have a little moment of like sibling incesty, whatever the fuck's going on there, like it's Game of Thrones or whatever.
Funny enough, in this particular bit, the bit where like they're basically talking to each other, going like, I'm gonna need to shoot you, and she's like, do it, put me out of my misery, that kind of bullshit. I didn't get any of those weird sexy vibes. I generally got those, this is wrong and we need to do something about it. I didn't get any weird. This is the one scene where they nailed that, not having sexual chemistry.
But they it gets real close, because at one point, right before the end happens, it does look like they're about to kiss.
It does. That's the only bit that ruins it.
It's like, but they don't kiss. They instead put their foreheads together, and then it cuts to Ortega outside, and she hears a gunshot, and she starts freaking out. But then it goes and it cuts back, and Kovac is holding his sister, and he tells Ortega to get the fuck out.
He tells her to get out and says goodbye.
He's like, I'm not leaving my sister. I'm going to stay here.
No. So he sits there and holds her, and then he talks to her hallucination girl, who then picks up the mantle of voiceover.
By the way, this is such a good voiceover. Like, it's a very, very neat idea. Because Tanaka drags Ortega away, Head in the Cloud starts falling, and he tells Kel this mental construct, because he's a crazy person as well, to tell him a story that doesn't end in death and destruction.
Which was the funniest thing, because she tells this story about a princess, and she falls in love with a peasant guy, and she's a warrior and she didn't like being alone, and he was a warrior and didn't like being alone, and they got together and they were like, yeah, this is cool, and they go out and fight for really good things. And at the end of this particular bit of the story, as Head in the Cloud crashes and burns to the ground, is like, the princess dies.
Right, I was like, thanks.
Shit story, Kel.
Real shit. Thanks, mental Kel. You're amazing.
Kel, you are the best.
And that is like, it's just this thing. It fades to black. It's like, oh, is that it? It's not it. We're actually only halfway through the episode at this point.
So now we changed tact in this episode. We go from ending the main storyline, inverted commas, to what is basically the epilogue. So everyone's had their stories wrapped up. We've seen Lizzie reunite with her parents and take down the establishment and the man. We've seen Ortega basically, free herself from the Ghost Walker, get vengeance for her family, and basically be taken away. We see Tanaka basically redeem himself, the same with the lawyer. We see the brother and sister fight where the sister kicks the bucket and, all this good stuff. And then we hit like the epilogue where we find out what happens to everyone.
I think my favorite, though, is the Kovac beginning epilogue for Kovac, which is him sitting at a table in virtual, a guy sitting across from him, And he's like, oh, well, the good news is your body's dead, but we found your stack in the wreckage and we spun you up in virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to find out, like, oh, the other Kovacs is perfectly fine. And he demanded that they both be spun up in virtual to be interrogated because of solidarity.
Mm-hmm. That was my favorite bit. Like the Kovac that had been going off, like getting away with his virginity, like be gone with this, fucking his memories away. He basically like, I need to have myself in because we're double sleeved, and if he's going to be interrogated, so am I, because we're the same person. We should do it.
And demands that it's in virtual because the other Kovacs can't be in the real.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like, that's such a Kovac thing to do. It's just so
really
good.
is. And then, but the worst part is like the UN or the cops or whatever, like, hey, yeah, so you double sleeved yourself, cool, real illegal, but you have a pardon, so we're not going to worry about it. But it's only for one of you.
Yeah, we can't let this go.
So you guys have, and then it cuts, and like this woman who's talking to the other Kovac is like, so you two get to have to decide who's going to die. And I'm like,
yeah, which one of you gets to live?
Fucking like shitty about it.
And then, like, whichever Kovacs is speaking at times, like, well, I want to choose the venue that we're meeting.
That's the one from Orgy Island. And I know that because Orgy Island one has a coat with, like, a high collar, and the one that was on Headland Clowns has a scar over his eye where he got cut, and he's wearing just a button-up shirt.
Yeah. So we have very little differences between the two.
Very little.
And they basically sit down and they exchange memories. They exchange what happens. He talks about shooting her sister, about shooting their sister and how bad that was. And Orgy Island one is like, well, maybe she wanted a way out and you just helped her. And he was like, I don't fucking know, to be honest.
I don't think I'll ever know.
Clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, no goddamn clue. So then they just like, well, one of us gets to forget the memories and only basically get the rehashed version of what the other person remembers. So they were like, well, I guess we better play for it.
Of course.
It's such a beautiful throwback. They start saying paper, scissors, rock, and it's the greatest thing ever.
The most logical way to decide who is permanently killed, play rock, paper, scissors.
It's so good. Best of 3. Best of 5, I think it was.
And it was best of 5, and it starts, and the first, like, 2 round. Yeah, the first 3.
Rock, scissors, and paper, I think. Something dumb like that.
They throw the same signs, yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine this is probably going to last a while.
Yeah. And then it cuts to Ortega, who has found her faith again, because remember, she had lost her faith when Riker went to jail, but now she's praying over her family and lighting candles, and it's very nice, she's back with her faith, and she's like remembering her family, and she hears a noise and runs out to the front of the house where Kovac is walking in, as smug as you please.
Of course.
And she's like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh, I was double sleeved. It's no big deal.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. You'll have Riker, don't worry about it.
It's really nothing to worry about. I was double sleeved. One of us had to die. And she's like, well, which one? And he's like, the one that said goodbye to you. Obviously. That's Ortega.
And I was thinking, like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure the Orgy Island one said goodbye to her before he left.
I'm pretty sure he did, yeah. I think they both did.
That doesn't answer any questions.
We still don't know which one it is. And I don't think we ever will.
I think that's how it should say. I don't think we should ever know. We can always have suspicions, but...
Because the thing is, functionally they are the same. Just 48 hours worth of time, probably not even that much, they have 2 slightly different versions of what happened. One person had a lot of sex, and the other one had a lot of murder.
Okay, so this is where the thing that happens afterwards. After we meet Ortega again, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm this person. It's fine. Don't worry about it." And she's like, "Okay, cool. So I'm gonna get my boyfriend back." And he's like, "Probably." We then go to we go to Bancroft. I think at this point.
We go to the Sun-Touched house. Yeah.
Yeah, we go to Sun-Touched house, and we go to Bancroft, and he has this conversation with his wife. The wife is there, and she's entertaining a bunch of other meths, right? And I don't know what the skeleton is of. It's like they're admiring this fossil.
Okay, I'm putting it in D&D terms, it looks like an Aarakocra.
Yes, that's what I thought it was. And then she's like, "It's an otter." I swear she said the word otter.
It's I don't know. It's a humanoid. It's an elder. It's one of the elders.
Yeah.
The people who made the stacks, or not the stacks, but the Songspire trees and the metal that made the stacks. Like, it's one of those. And she's
and
like,
she's like, maybe this inspired angels.
yeah, because it's a human with wings and
Mm.
human-ish.
And then
It's not a very good fossil.
basically Ortega turns up and she activates a thing on her hologram, which is basically Ray saying, "Yeah, y'all done fucked up." Basically the confession that they got out of the wire,
Mm-hmm.
the microwire that was in Kovacs' eye. And then it switches over to a reporter saying that Bancroft has been a dick and that there's a whole thing going on and things aren't great and big conspiracy unveiled.
And Miriam walks away during the middle of it.
I have to say again, props to her dressmaker, beautiful.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm done with that now.
She wears like really interesting outfits the whole time.
Yeah,
They're very good. They're the most showy bullshit outfits, but like they look real cool.
They're very pretty. Anyway, so she goes up and speaks with Bancroft, and basically Kovac then turns up, and they have a conversation along the lines of, you basically shot yourself so you wouldn't remember, but that doesn't mean you didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Like it's another one of those conversations.
You can't get rid of your memories and it not still be true.
Yeah.
So that leads me to think maybe it's our Kovacs. It's the Kovacs that has done all this weird shit, because if he's taking that stance, then maybe it's probably still him in there. That's what leads me to believe that he probably won. Or he was gaining it so that he would actually win this time, inverted commas.
It's possible. Because, yeah, it's that other conversation of, what makes a person and the body. Because Lauren's, and I'm going to say Lauren's here and Miriam, because there's stuff that happens between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren's says that he killed the person who did the bad thing, so it's fine. Kovac's just like, no, you still did it. The girl is still dead. Like, it's still you. You just don't remember it. Yeah. It's not like you don't get rid of the act just because you can't remember it.
Yeah, it's just because you were drunk, it doesn't mean that you didn't cross that line. You crossed that line.
Exactly. I also will say that I do like the fact that Lawrence seems like he's genuinely upset. Like he thought he was a good person. He never thought he'd kill anybody. He thought he had a line, and then he finds out that he did kill someone. Like he's like, even if it's true, like I'm okay, so I'm a bad person. Like he seems like he's genuinely upset by it.
Yeah, he genuinely thinks at the core of it, he's a decent person. Yes, he's the kind of person that's like, I'm not going to let my children have anything if I die. Like, fuck them. And that's, I think, more self-preservation. But at the end of the day, he's still providing for his kids. He's still looking after his wife. He still loves them all. He just, has certain pleasures which you do after living for like hundreds of years. And yeah, he just didn't consider himself that bad of a person. The fact that he's actually even able to do that was the thing that shocked him and upset him. And he and Miriam go down, and Miriam's like, I'm going to stand by your side. Like, whatever happens, yep. I'm with you. I'm like, oh, it's a nice little moment. And then they go downstairs and he hands himself over to the police who are there.
He does.
And then
he also tells Isaac, his son, he's like, by the way, there's like 20 fucking kids or some shit. I don't remember the exact number, but the only one
I think Isaac's is the eldest.
Is he the eldest?
I think he's the eldest son.
Okay.
Sure.
We don't really see any of the other kids. We see Naomi in the mom's body, but we don't see the other kids. Doesn't really matter. But he tells Isaac to like take care of the family. I should have done this a long time ago. Basically, it's like, you have my respect. You're a good person. Do what you have to do.
Yeah. Have everything.
Yeah. But Kovacs is not done with this family because fuck these people.
No, he's not. It's like, no, I'm not done with you, meth heads, you bastards.
Get the fuck back over here.
Lizzie and her parents walk into the room, and Lizzie goes on to reveal what we didn't know. We thought it was Bancroft who'd killed her, or something along those lines. No, it was in fact Miriam who had shot her down. She killed her because she was pregnant with Bancroft's child. Mm-hmm. And Miriam was like, I tried to give her everything and tried to get the crowd to understand that she would give anything to this girl, but the only recourse she had left was to brutally kick and destroy this girl. And kill her baby, and then to make sure she couldn't talk, make her go crazy because Bancroft's old lawyer shows up, and she's like, you wanted a fixer, so I got you one. And they took Lizzie to the Way Clinic and drove her insane so that even if they spun her up, she just wouldn't be able to talk. Yeah. But they suck because they're not Poe.
And I also love this fact because when they find that out, when that happens, Lawrence looks at Mir and he's like, "What did you do?" Like he's genuinely disgusted by what she did.
Yeah. Again, because it's a real death.
Yeah. And he's
so
like,
you don't get your stacks until you're a year old.
Yeah. And he's like, real upset by it.
Yeah, and she's like, you don't understand. The children are all I have, and they're mine. And they basically have this moment where they look at each other and go, "Oh, we done fucked up. We done fucked each other up."
And then he finds out that she dosed him with Stallion,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very upset. He's like, "You betrayed me." Very upset by that as well.
Yeah. So they have this moment where they're like, we really fucked up hard. We fucked each other really hard with this. This is not okay. And they still have that moment of like, we both fucked up. We can't be angry with each other because we both done fuck this. And they have this like hug moment where you think, oh, they're still going to be together. They forgive each other for what they've done. Like, holy shit, that's some love right there. That's some unconditional bullshit going on right there. It was sweet and disturbing at the same time.
Very. And they both get arrested. And I do have a side note here. There is a cop with a mohawk, which I just think is very neat.
Oh my god, I missed it.
There's a cop with a mohawk who leads one of them out. All the partygoers leave. No, those two leave. The partygoers are standing around, just like, "Oh, that was very odd." I don't know why that was the voice I chose for them. But
that was suspiciously awful.
I say. And then Kovac goes and stares at the Songspire tree, and it fades to black, and we get one last wrap up, which is in the. We get one last wrap up, which is just a voiceover.
Yeah.
We find out that
we find the rest of the princess story, right?
We do, but not just yet.
Not yet.
It's Kovac's voiceover first, where he says, "Ava was proven innocent. Yeah, pardoned. Yep. I paid off her body mortgage." So then we see the Elliots in that little house, and we see Lizzie's mother for the first time, and Elliot. Yep. And he says Lizzie kept the synth because it's not real, and she's not sure if she is either.
I thought there is so many deep complications in on that.
There's a lot, yeah.
Because she's gone from body to body. She was in a stack. She was spun up in virtual where she had no real body. And it goes back to that whole, is it or isn't it a soul question? Mm-hmm. When is it a soul? When it isn't a soul? When is it just electronic data? And she's having that. I've interacted with so much electronic stuff, being a part of the electronics. Yeah. I might not be a person.
Am I a person? Who knows?
Literally a synth, not even a real body, inverted commas. There's no blood flowing through it. It's just a synth now. Yep. And the fact that she chose to keep that, I was like, that is some deep level shit going on right there. That was beautiful, and respect on that. Holy crap.
We also find out that because of the actions of Bancroft and everything, the UN re-voted on 653, and it passed. So now victims are getting spun up, regardless if they have religious coding, to be able to testify against murderers.
Yep.
The last thing we see of Kovac is he's standing in Ortega's apartment in Riker's body, and he's like, "That's it, we're done." And Ortega's like,
finally unpacked.
Yeah, and she's like, "We can't be done. There's got to be another box somewhere." And they have,
like, nope.
Yeah, they have this little moment where Ortega clearly wants to ask him to stay, but can't do that because
Riker.
Yeah, Riker, and she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" And he's like, "I don't know. Kale's out there somewhere. I'm gonna go find her if I can."
Yeah, so he basically says, we basically find out that he's going to go hand the body over so that Riker can have it back. Mm-hmm. Because Riker has been cleared, pardoned, been proven innocent because he was innocent. It's just that the work that he did in proving his innocence was what Ortega was thankful for.
Yeah.
So I think it's at this point we get the rest of the story because...
Yeah, we start to get the rest of it.
Yeah, we get the rest of the story from Kel about maybe, okay, so this isn't the shitty ending story that's not about death. We hear about how the peasant boy, after finding his princess murdered, he wanders the land, and then he finds out that she's not dead. She's just in an enchantment behind ice and behind thorns, and he now has a quest to go find her, which is obviously fitting because that's exactly what's going to be happening, I assume, in Series 2. I hope in Series 2.
I'm sure.
And what we get visually is we get... I believe it's him or whatever body he's going to be using because I don't think we see his face.
We don't. We see gloved hands and a silhouette, and that's it.
Yep. So I would like to assume that's Attack and his new body. I would like to assume that. I hope so. Because what happens is that we see from behind the bar of the Raven Hotel. And this is where I had the, is there a thing going on earlier? Because we see them walking into this place. We see them hanging around and pulling out like devices and checking things and looking things over. And then the ending of this episode, the ending of the scene is that revolving door spinning. Now, this is why I had that question about, did you see something piled up in that ash, in the shape of it? Because if there's any way for Poe to come back, it would be this scene. It would be because of what happens here. Because if there is something in that pile of like ash and debris of whatever it is that's going on, like say the core of who like he is, if anything is going to come back, it's going to be this moment, or he goes back and activates something. I don't really know, but this is my hope. This is my ever-ending belief that they please bring Poe back for the next series, because holy shit. We just get this nice little scene where he's clearly prepping something. He's clearly getting something sorted out for when he goes down to find Cal, which is basically what I think the next series is going to be about, I hope, because all the other threads that have been running through here have basically been wrapped up. This is the only thread left, so far as I can tell.
Yeah. And that's it. Because it ends, the last shot is him, we assume it's him in a new body, but walking out of the Raven Hotel, which is dark and dead because Poe is gone.
Rip Poe.
But that's it. And Valanda, we're done.
I'm so sad. I genuinely love this episode. I know that there are things that we ripped on in this episode, but it was beautiful. The fights were incredible. The fact that the lights were just perfect enough to spark that. This is way deeper than I thought it was, like the whole spark thing going on. Everything in here is just really good. They bring up some really good things, like what is real and what's not real. What do you consider life? What don't you consider life? Because it's not just the DHFs and the stacks, like flitting from one to the other and into Sims. We also have AI, because it's the age-old question of how far does AI go before you consider it, inverted commas, life? And is Poe a person? Or isn't it? Is he just an amalgamation of like numbers? Are we just amalgamation of numbers? And I love that they threw that question out there very subtly, just running through this thing. And who we actually are. Like, there's Ava, who props to both actors on Ava, because the guy playing Ava is spot on. You immediately, like, there's a bit at the beginning of this episode where he pulls like his jacket around him more, and it's a very womanly, it's a very feminine thing to do. It's that kind of like, I'm kind of cold and like I need to pull something around myself to feel protected. It's that body language, and everything about the way they portrayed this was beautiful and perfect. And then we went to Ava as mom. You could still tell it was the same inverted commas person. It was so good. It was amazing. There are so many things in this series that are just like just being brought up that are just like, this is things that we should consider. Like, what is a person, what isn't a person? Does it matter what sleeve you're in, inverted commas? And the soul, which is the big question. So much in here is about the soul. If they bring her back from 300, is it still the same person, or is it just a set of data from A to B? Who knows?
There's a lot of questions, and there are a lot of things unanswered currently. And it's a great. Let me just ask. I'm gonna ask now. Would you recommend this series to somebody?
Fuck yeah. I will recommend it to everyone and anyone who asks. I may have to add in the warning of surprise, there is random dick in here, but there is random dick. There is full poo bar in this. Full poo bear in this. Like often, you just won't see it coming.
Yeah, very frequently you will not see that. It just happens. I stopped myself from saying the choice of words I was going to.
I did it too late. It's in my head.
No, you saw where I was going, unfortunately.
Sorry.
But it's fine. It's fine. I would like to take like an extra like couple of minutes and just talk about like overall like the season as a whole, like how we felt about it.
Sure.
Mostly from you, because I have already seen it, but I want to hear like, since you just saw it, like other thoughts about the whole thing.
I think everything in here was clearly done with a passion and an intent. It wasn't a this is my first rodeo. It may be someone's first rodeo. It doesn't feel like that. It's not the we'll give it a college effort like some other series that we've seen, even less in some parts of that scene episode that we've seen before. But this is like everyone has on their top notch, their top game on this. Like all the acting is spot on, and not only is it spot on, it's consistent even between different actors. They get the same mannerisms, the same way of speaking, and it's spot on and beautifully perfect. So props to the casting and the actor there, just top. It looks incredible. Even those dingy, dirty, horrible scenes, everything is still like really photogenic and really just spot on perfect. Everything is where it should be, and everything to a degree has a point to it. Like it's either there to do create a setting, or it's there to like foreshadow something in the future. And it's just really beautifully made. Like just it looks amazing. The scripting, okay, at parts, suspect. There are bits in there which are clearly for convenience, but I have to write those off because you need to get them in somehow on occasion.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, and again, that's just like everything's written. It doesn't feel forced in most places. It feels like a really good way. And the pacing, we were talking about pacing before we started this episode. Um, the way that this has worked out is like it's everything they've done before has set up for this to be a good ending. It's not they're struggling for 50 minutes to fill something like we'll extend this scene to make it fit or anything like that. No, everything happens perfectly. The fighting happens in the right order. Everything looks and feels beautiful, and it's just scripted in such a way that it just flows beautifully. The ending, everyone's wrap ups are exactly as you'd want them, even though we don't get a wrap up for Poe because he's dead, and I'm very sad. Um, Overall, this is just a really good example of how to write a really good, very interesting series, and it's sci-fi. They have sci-fi moments in this, Drew.
They do have sci-fi moments.
It makes me so happy, and they bring up so much. They bring up so many like very good moral quandaries of like what is this and what isn't this. Consider this. Think about this, and everything in it's just really good. The only real problem I have with this is Ray, because it's the weird, sexy, creepy tension between the two. If they didn't have that, I would ignore even like the one or two odd tropes that got in here, like the weird religious fanatic, the convenient way he turns up exactly the right point. Like those things I'd happily push to one side and completely ignore, but it's the fact they had that weird sexual tension they just didn't need.
Yeah.
Other than that, I love this series. It's perfect, and I cannot wait for a second series. If they don't do a second series, however, this is a fantastic way to end.
Oh, definitely. Well, we know they're doing a second one because
We do, yes.
it's been officially announced. But I do agree. Although, like we said last episode, I think that making them brother and sister made the tension between them that much more without
Yes.
having to explain a lot more.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you'd have to have the backstory of why Ray was so into Kovac, and then you'd have to have all this backstory of him and Ray together, and then all this backstory of him and Kel together, and then all this backstory of him and Ortega together, and just in a 10 episode series that does not flow. That's a mess.
That's just way too much, because the thing is like most series, because they're not all, all like me, there's always that one true pairing. There is that, like, it's him and Kels. That's the thing that is. Him and Ortega is just complicated because he's in Riker's body, who clearly feels attraction for Ortega, and he does genuinely like her.
Yeah.
He likes her. Ortega maintains he's an asshole, but I think she still really likes him anyway.
I think she definitely likes him, because there was
Yeah.
definitely tension of she didn't want him to go in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So they just have this weird, complicated relationship, but it's nothing like him and Kels had. And then obviously to then have to add Ray on top of that by just uttering the phrase brother and sister, that's everything you need to know about their relationship,
Yeah.
because everything else can be explained. Even if they hate each other, it's a sibling rivalry gone wrong. If they really love and care about each other, it means that they've gone through something as they've, as they've grown up. Like just like those two, those three words, brother and sister, just really nails that relationship without having to worry too much. And it does play. There are moments when they are not being weird sexual deviants. They are genuinely like being a brother and sister. Like the end there, apart from when look like they're about to kiss. Like, but that last scene is just, that's everything we need to know, and it's great.
Exactly, because like you said, brother and sister conveys like a certain amount of connection already. And think about how often we saw them together when they were younger. We saw an episode where with the Patchwork Man, and they hid, and their mom got beat up. We saw the episode for like all 10 minutes of it where you find out what happened to their mom and their dad, and how he got enlisted in the Protectorate, and that's pretty much it. Like that's their backstory for what we see. It's only like 3 short scenes.
That's them as kids, and then we have that one episode which is just the flashback episode.
But they're adults there, and that's also his connection to Kel as well.
Yeah, that mostly focuses on that, and we still have that weird, sexy chemistry. Then, just even in that little weird bit, but we still see that going on. It's like, I'm really glad they made that decision, but perhaps if they'd taken some of the sex out of that,
they should have toned it down. One person I know said it's probably because they chose 2 attractive people, and that's probably some of it. But other parts of it are just the way that Ray acts.
Because it's the chemistry. It's, as I think I said before when we were looking at that flashback episode with the noticing the weird creepy sexual tension, it's the same with both actors. Like, she may be the same actress in that, but the way that the chemistry she has with her brother, it's the same regardless of who's acting him. So it's not just like physical chemistry, it's
Yeah.
that chemistry, like some of that is written, some of that is there in the writing, and it's the way that they choose to do that. Like they made a conscious decision when they were acting and when they were directing to say, add the sexy weird tension here.
Yes, they very much did.
Yeah, it's super weird.
It's very weird. But overall, I think the series is really good. As you said, it doesn't feel like anyone's first time, like making a show. Everything's clearly done with passion and forethought and like all these things. And they do such a good job of setting scenes in places and making those places unique enough that when you come back, you know, the whole thing about set design is being able to instantly identify a set about where you are. They do so good at that because you're like, oh, I know where this is, I know where this is, I know where this is. And some of the other show we watched had some issues with it to a degree.
Little bit, yeah.
But
massively.
Massively, yeah. But they did such a good job in this. And also, everything was connected. Everything meant something. Everything, like, dove into something else. And it was just, like, they did such a good job of planning this to make it one cohesive thing. And now, granted, some of that could be the book. But it's not just adapting a book. Like, as we all know, we've all seen movies and TVs that are adaptations of books that just fall flat on their fucking faces.
Horrific, yeah.
So some of it is just the knowledge of going, okay, this is what we need, and thinking about what they're doing beforehand. It's that little bit of prep work in the front that makes everything else at the back look so much better.
Yeah, it's like they had a plan for everything. Like, rather than going, okay, we need to design this place. Okay, so it's a hotel and it's based on Edgar Allan Poe. Cool, let's go. And rather than just doing what they think it is, they must have done some research on the here's a thing and looking through the script and going, okay, this is going to turn up later, so let's put this in, or here's an idea for some foreshadowing, let's put this in here. The way that they did the grungy scenes outside in the streets, you got that feeling of like, this place is a very low down, it's grungy, it's horrible, it's neon lighting, it's definitely set in the future because that's the way they like. You got that just from looking at it. It's just so well done. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Being that this is your second time round, in those first episodes, did you see lots of foreshadowing and stuff that you didn't spot before but appreciated, like, now that you've already seen it? Like, oh, that's going to mean that, and that's going to...
Oh, yeah. A ton of it. And, like, watching those first episodes, like, especially the first... I think it's, like, first 4, which are a lot of setup. There are so many little things. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know how that ties in later, and I know how this ties in later. And, like... I honestly wish I had written them down because I don't remember them now, but I do remember watching them and going, oh, I know what that is. Like, that's a foreshadowing to this point, and that's this, like, you... If you get a chance and you have a moment, literally just watch those episodes again. Just watch that, like, build-up part, and you will see all of these little things, and you're like, oh, okay, I already see the web that's built, and I'm just, like, following to the end. It's way... They did a very good job because, like I said, they built something, and... Oh, man, there were a few that I was like, oh, man, I wish I could remember what the fuck they were. Because I do remember early episodes of me talking about, like, oh, this will come back later. And I don't fucking remember what I was talking about.
Oh, that was garbage from, like, 10 weeks ago, Drew.
It's been so long, Valanda.
It's been 10 weeks. I'm super glad we picked this as a second series.
Right? I think...
Don't get me wrong, we could choose some serious garbage to follow what was Lost in Space, and it still be good by comparison. This isn't good by comparison. This is just fucking amazing on its own.
This was just good. This was a good choice.
This was a damn fine choice. I'm very happy we chose this. This is good. I would recommend it to the Hills and Back. This is epitome of, like, this is good writing. There are some things that need to be tweaked and some things that are obviously, like, a little bit weird, but, you know, overall I would watch this again with someone else and irritate them with what I know. So Drew, being that you're the one that recommended this, would you recommend this to other people?
Yes, again, I would recommend this. I would tell people, hey, go watch this. You want sci-fi? You want actual good, interesting murder mystery type sci-fi? Go watch this. Because they, like, beginning to end, you're going to get into it and be like, yes, I want more of this. I want more of this. Why is it over?
Why is it? I liked, we did mention, like, the end of this episode, the Fireflies is basically I think an angel with, like, her fist to the ground and a weapon in her hand.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out because I thought it was cool. All right, Drew, because we decided that we weren't going to do this. Well, how'd you rate this episode?
5. It's
Sweet.
a 5.
How'd you rate the series, Drew?
5. Like,
Excellent. Cool.
okay, to be fair, I'd say probably it's more like a 4.8 because those little things throughout the series, like the creepy sexual tension and some of the other.
Oh, we're doing point of numbers?
I mean,
okay.
that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to do points of numbers, but if I were going to go that minute, like, I remember in the beginning saying there were little things that annoyed me. I'd still rate the series a 5. Again, there are still little things that annoy me. So if I were to break it down, it wouldn't quite be a 5.
It's basically a 4.7, 4.8, but rounding. So
Yeah, it's it's 5.
Rounding error. It's a rounding error. It's 5. It's 5 with rounding error. Yeah, that's good. I like it.
How would you rate this episode?
I'm gonna say 5 because with rounding error.
Yeah, with a rounding error. And how would you rate the series?
5 with a rounding error.
Yeah,
I would probably say like 4.7,
Yeah.
like a solid 4.7.
because you see what I mean. Like watching
Yeah.
it, they're not. It's not enough to ruin it. It's not enough to take you out of it. There are just little things that are just like, I can't forgive that.
Yeah, it's the sexy tension. That's the thing. Like everything else, I would just ignore and carry on. But it's just like, why did you do this, guys?
Yeah.
No, for me, yeah, this is definitely a 5. Like a series, I would force feed this on anyone I could. It's just so good.
And like the tropes, I do want to say the tropes, like the trope of a villain running in at the right moment to say a fucking pithy line. That is a trope I will always get behind because it's funny. It like it drags the tension along, but it's also like, what the fuck were you doing?
Is that I honestly think they came from that old school of maybe he's English and just didn't want to interrupt her mid-flow. He'd already walked in, but like most people walking, you'd let them finish their train of thought first.
Yeah.
So that's what he did, and then he interrupted. That's how I feel. Like that's what I want to hope happens.
He gave it a beat so he could like let them finish.
Yeah, like no one's got anything pithy to say. Right, I'm in. Okay, we got this.
All right, yeah.
All right, so I guess that's almost the end. So we just need to say what we're doing next week.
Well, I will tell you. Next week, if you come back, you're gonna watch Valanda, myself, and
Grim.
There we go. I'm terrible with names. We're gonna be watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1958 version, if I remember right.
Oh, I think we tried to go back as far as we could.
I think so. I think it's the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We're gonna watch it. I'm gonna get as drunk as humanly possible while also knowing I have to go to work the next day.
I'm going to get as drunk as humanly possible because I will be celebrating having finished a thing, so I've got the weekend kind of free and Monday off to myself. Grimmy is not drinking because he has to work 6 hours because we have a time zone difference that you don't have.
He's gonna have to hurt us a little bit.
Yeah, he's gonna have to try and keep us on. It's not gonna happen.
No.
It's gonna be fun and hilarious. So yes, we have Invasion of the Body Snatchers next week.
And then do you want to announce what we're doing next?
I do.
Okay, go.
Okay. So this came about because I was like, I'm watching this series and it's really cool. And Drew went, we should do this. So I've stopped watching it. So I'm 8 episodes through out of 10. And we're going to be watching Sabrina. I'm so excited.
You seem very excited.
It's so good. Don't worry. It's not it's not as good a series, I think, as the one we've just watched. But I think it's still a good and interesting and fun series. So we're going to watch that basically when we come back from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yep. It's going to be fun. It's a nostalgia trip for us both because I think you probably watched Sabrina too, right?
I remember Sabrina the Teenage Witch, yeah.
I missed the animatronic puppet though.
I was going to ask if the animatronic puppet showed up. I assumed he didn't.
There's no weird animatronic. If it's in there really subtly. I'm going to try and watch it again, but there's a surprise. I know there isn't a weird animatronic puppet in there called Salem. So.
That kind of makes me sad, but I will also say it makes sense. The TV show was a sassy teen drama, and this is supposed to be dark and gritty. So
yeah, this is definitely dark. This is definitely gritty. It's really fun. It still has elements of humor in there. And when we watch episode 1, I will tell you what I think they did to Salem.
All right, I look forward to that. It's going to.
I'm so psyched.
All right, that's it. So, would you like to do the bits?
The bits. Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at blood_BTB. The next episode of TLD isn't released tomorrow because they're taking a break for your weird Thanksgiving that you guys have on your side of the pond. So it's going to take a break. However, the week after, we will be releasing the next episode of TLD, and I think on Friday, we're releasing the backstory episode for Kino, which is the other continent in TLD, and that's going to be released exclusively to our patrons for the first 2 months. So if you sign on to Patreon at the right level, you'll get to listen to Kino. If not, you got to wait 2 months like everyone else. So that's happening. Next episode of The White Vault comes out Tuesday as well, and it is freaking awesome. Go listen to it. It's also cold and chilly and full of coffee. I think that's probably it for everything I'm actually doing this week. What about you, Drew?
I'm Drew Tillman, and you can find me on Twitter at NotThatDrew. Good place to follow me for things. This week, let's see. Monday, the next issue of Taking Initiative should come out. If I have my weeks right, I'm pretty sure it is. Let me double check because I don't ever remember which week is the actual on week.
I think the one this week was the Marinette one, so I think the one coming must be main feed.
Yes, main feed comes out tomorrow. I think it's the start of the next episode. Again, I'm real iffy on when things are. Mostly because we recorded so far, we're so far ahead of it that I'm like, it's somewhere in here.
You guys are crazy ahead. We are crazy not far ahead.
We are crazy far ahead. I think that's all I'm in this week. So you'll find me next Sunday over here doing Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Getting wasted. We still need to organize what time we're starting this celebration.
I'll message you during the week. We will
sort something out. Yeah,
I'll figure it out. But that's us. I'm very excited for the next series. I'm excited for Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I don't have anything good to follow up with on that because it's
all right. I guess say we goodbye from the couch this week then, and we will catch you guys next week for a movie.
Yes, we will. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.